This episode of History Saver is brought to you by Addressing Gettysburg. Addressing Gettysburg is a podcast that shares great experiences, quality programs, awesome guests, and is a welcoming community for all who love Gettysburg. So join in with host Matt Callery and find out why Addressing Gettysburg is one of the top-rated podcasts online today. You can find them on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, CastBox, Podbean, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and on Instagram, Facebook, and of course, right here on YouTube. So check out Addressing Gettysburg today, where history is not boring. Thank you to Addressing Gettysburg for sponsoring this video.
You're listening to Addressing Gettysburg.
So right now, I am walking in a place, as I say about most places, that I've wanted to see forever. Well, this is actually the number one Civil War bucket list place that I've had on my list, and number two would be Gettysburg. So right now I'm literally standing where I've always wanted to see that pertains to Civil War history. One of my favorite generals of the American Civil War was Thomas Jonathan Jackson. Most of you know him as Stonewall Jackson. And well, he will lay his roots right where I am now in Lexington, Virginia, at this place, Virginia Military Institute. Now the front of it, you really can't see a whole lot of because they got a scaffold here, some renovation work they're doing. But this is the front of the Virginia Military Institute, otherwise known as VMI. And there is a long history here at VMI pertaining to the American Civil War. There's going to be a lot of generals who's going to come out of this place. One of them is Thomas Jonathan Jackson. But let's check out Virginia Military Institute here. Let's go in, let's see the museum. And we are also going to check out Stonewall Jackson's horse. He's still here. He is very alive and well inside of this museum. You want to know what I'm talking about? Let's go. Okay, so what you're looking at right now, and excuse if me talking isn't loud enough, but I'm trying to be as quiet as possible because this is a very solemn place. What you're looking at right now is perhaps one of the things I've wanted to see most forever. One of my favorite stories of the American Civil War is the Battle of Newmarket and the Corps of Cadets that's going to charge across this field on May the 15th of 1864. They're going to be led up under the command of Confederate Major General John C. Breckinridge, and there's going to be 257 of these guys for Virginia Military Institute. Kids, cadets, I mean, guys today that ain't even old enough to drive, some of them. And they're going to fill a gap in the Confederate line there, and they're going to lead a counterattack. And the entire line will move forward on a rain-soaked wheat field, and this will later become known as the Field of Lost Shoes. There's a great film called Field of Lost Shoes you can go watch that depicts the history of these men. And in that charge, 47 cadets are going to be wounded, and 10 of them are going to die. And, well, it's going to become a historic moment. It's going to be a very solemn and just very put into the history of Virginia Military Institute. And it's going to be one of this place's greatest remembrances, is these 257 VMI cadets who's going to charge across this field. 47 of them are going to gain wounds for this. 10 of them are going to lose their life. And a member of the 1880 VMI class, Benjamin Klondist, is going to complete this painting in 1914 in remembrance of these cadets. And this painting now is here in this chapel, and they're going to remember these guys every year in a ceremony in May, on May the 15th, right here at VMI. Those 10 cadets who lost their life are buried here on campus. And this is pretty cool. This is something I've always wanted to see. Yeah, pretty neat. So if you want to learn more about the cadets, these 257 guys is going to charge the fields at Newmarket, you've got to come here to VMI. You've got to visit this, and you've also got to go to Newmarket. If you want to see the battlefield of Newmarket, you can't make it there for yourself. There's a video that I filmed a little bit back in the backlog of videos here on the channel. Go watch that video. But I can't believe I'm standing here, and I get to bring you guys along with me. How cool is that? Let's go check out the museum. All right, so we have made in this out of the Virginia Military Institute Museum, and here is Jackson's horse, Little Sorrel. As you can see, well, if you wanted to know how a horse can still be alive after 200 years, here it is. And this, in fact, is Jackson's horse. This is the hide from his horse, displayed and memorialized here at the Virginia Military Institute Museum. Now, his wife once said that Little Sorrel's eyes were of chief beauty and being most intelligent and expressive and as soft as a gazelle's. And that is kind of depicted here in the horse today when they kind of restored the horse's hide here to give Little Sorrel a proper remembrance and to honor him. They incorporated that into Little Sorrel here. Now, Jackson is going to attain this horse in 1861. He's going to purchase it from a group of horses that had been captured from the Baltimore and Ohio train. And he's going to ride Little Sorrel throughout the 1862 Valley Campaign. And on the night of the 2nd of May, 1863, when Jackson would be wounded, he is riding this exact horse. So this is where Jackson was, right here on Little Sorrel. And after Little Sorrel is going to die on the 16th of March, 1886, he's going to be moved here. Before then, he was here at VMI after the war. He was kept in some stables here, moved to the Soldiers' Home in Richmond, Virginia. And that's where he's going to die. And then, now today you can come see Little Sorrel right here. Jackson is going to die on the 10th of May, 1863 from complications from the wound that he is going to sustain. And he's going to sustain this wound from his own men as they're doing the reconnaissance ride. And this is totally by accident. He was 39 years old when he dies. He's going to be brought back here to Lexington, Virginia for burial. The VMI Corps of Cadets here are going to escort him for the funeral service. And on the night that he is going to be wounded, this is the Indiana rubber coat that he was wearing. This is the exact jacket where Jackson is going to be shot, and you can still see that bullet hole right here. This is perhaps one item, as far as artifacts are concerned, that I've always wanted to see since I was a kid. Jackson's horse and the jacket he was wearing the night that he was wounded. Now, why is Thomas Jonathan Jackson my favorite general? Well, it's because he was such an extraordinary commander. He's going to arrive here in VMI in the fall of 1851. He's going to be a professor of natural philosophy and of artillery tactics. He's going to be promoted to a brigadier general on the 17th of July at the Battle of Manassas. And he's going to earn the nickname Stonewall Jackson. Well, he is going to be wounded here in the shoulder. This coat is going to be cut up the sleeve across the chest to remove it off of him without giving him further injury. And it's going to be later repaired. And then it's going to be sent to General Robert E. Lee, who's then going to send it to Jackson's wife. And in 1926, Stonewall Jackson's granddaughter is going to donate it to here at the Virginia Military Institute. And you can come see it here today where it is preserved. And you can see remnants of the repair. There's some right there and on the bottom there. So you can kind of see the seam lines of where that repair was done. But you can certainly see the bullet hole here. Now, when Jackson receives the nickname Stonewall Jackson, he is wearing this uniform at the Battle of Manassas. And this is the only full remaining uniform that is known to exist of General Stonewall Jackson. And perhaps it's one of the most important ones, just so happens to be, because this is a uniform he was wearing during that Battle of Manassas, where he's going to earn that famed nickname Stonewall Jackson. Now, he would write to his wife and say, well, you know, there was some damage taken on my coat and it was repaired. Well, you can see where that damage was during the battle right there and where it has been repaired. So this is super cool to see the coat that Thomas Jonathan Jackson was wearing the day he got the nickname Stonewall Jackson at the first major battle of the American Civil War in Manassas. And you can kind of, this uniform also gives a glimpse of how these uniforms during that battle can be confusing. Because if you'll notice, this is blue. It's not gray. This is a navy blue uniform. So the Confederate Army, well, it hasn't totally transitioned into what you may think of as the Confederate gray. Not all Confederates wore gray. There were a mixture of different uniforms for both sides, Union and Confederate, during the war. Well, Jackson that day was not wearing Confederate gray. He was wearing still a Union blue uniform, which can be, well, very confusing. And then beside it, you have his stool. Now, this stool was given later to Adjutant Colonel Sandy Pendleton. Before it makes its way into Pendleton's hands, it served as Jackson's camp stool. And he's going to take this stool from the VMI mess hall and use it in his camp. So he bought him a piece of VMI with him, and also he bought his field desk here from VMI. This is the field desk he's going to use here at VMI. This is the field desk he's going to use during the war. You could just look at this field desk, look at all the stainage on here. You can see perhaps some ink stains on it, perhaps some spots where it may have rained on it, and you could just imagine what was written and studied on this desk by Thomas Jonathan Jackson. I mean, if items could talk, this would be one of the most historic items that you could have a discussion with, because it's witnessed a lot of battles and a lot of battlefields. And then you have yet some more Stonewall Jackson items. You have a forge cap, and this may have been a Christmas gift to him in 1861 by his wife, Mary Anna Jackson. She is, if it is, in fact, that cap, she's going to be the one who made this cap for him. In September of 1862, the general is going to give the cap to his mount maker, who is Jed Hotchkiss. And Hotchkiss is going to purchase a new cap for Jackson, and as a token of appreciation and kind of in exchange for the new hat that he bought him, Jackson is going to give Hotchkiss with this forge cap. And then right beside it, you have a lock of Stonewall Jackson's hair upon his death. This was obtained. And then you have a small piece of cloth that was actually taken by Lucy Chandler, who is the daughter of the owner of the building of which Jackson died in. And she's going to discover a frock coat. It's going to be sitting in the corner. It's going to be stained with Jackson's blood. And she's going to cut off a few pieces as souvenirs, as memorial items to remember Jackson. And this is one of those locks off of that frock coat that she's going to cut off. So pretty cool. Right off the bat, you walk in this museum, you're going to see perhaps one of the most important exhibits of the American Civil War, of one of the most important commanders, Thomas Jonathan Jackson. Yeah, come check this out for sure. This is something I wanted to see since I was a kid. So if you ever had the chance and you want to step into the Civil War history, one of the most important places into American Civil War history and the United States military history as a whole, you've got to come here to VMI. Now, VMI is not just important because of Jackson, because of the American Civil War. VMI is going to go on throughout the history of this country to produce some of the most decorated and most important heroes of the United States military. There's going to be several Medal of Honor recipients that have come from this school. There's going to be just the top defenders of our country, top leaders of our country, who's going to set their place, their foot into the world here, starting at VMI. So let's take a stroll throughout the rest of the VMI Museum, see what they have to offer, and talk about some of these heroes in the United States military that you could come here and remember and honor here at VMI. So if there's one thing that VMI is known for, it's tradition. And, well, they have all of the class rings here in display in the middle of the room here, honoring all of the graduates of VMI, all of the cadets who's gone from rats to cadets to bigger and better things, important things in this world. So you have, starting at 1842, all the way around to modern. And there's even places already set all the way to 2039. I hope I live to see 2039. So this is a VMI First Classman's cape. This is the cape that was worn by Jonathan Merrick Daniels. He was class of 1961. He was a valedictorian of his class, and he was attending Harvard Episcopal Divinity School when he responded to the call to assist African Americans to register for voting. Now, Daniels was killed by a shotgun blast on the 20th of August, 1965 in Hayneville, Alabama. Well, I made the trek from Alabama to here. I know exactly where Hayneville is. He was saving the life of a young black woman, African American woman there. He was declared a martyr and a saint in the Episcopal Church, which I'm Episcopal. So this is pretty cool to see. Now, John Marshall, who was in the class of 1865, acquired this cape. He's going to wear it during his first class year. And Marshall was also the valedictorian of his class. I wonder if it was a cape. Now, John Marshall is going to become, he's going to go on and become a Texas district judge. You may have heard of him. Here you've got some Virginia Military Institute kind of pick-me-uppers is what I like to call them. Football, state championship 1928 and 29. You've got a VMI coat, the VMI Shako, and then a couple of belt buckles. Here's a 1935 football schedule. Pretty cool. Here's a portrait of Major General Francis H. Smith. And this is his appearance around 1860. He's going to be an 1833 graduate of West Point. He's going to be a math professor, a very noted one. And he's going to serve as superintendent of VMI from 1839 to 1889. He's a superintendent of VMI during the American Civil War. And he was an innovator in 19th century education. So this is the man that's going to be here at VMI during the war. So here is a VMI uniform that was worn by Cadet John Steenburgen. Hopefully I just didn't butcher his name. I'm terrible with names. But it's going to be in the class of 1849. And this was the adopted pattern of the United States Military Academy uniform at the time. It continues to be worn by the VMI Corps to this day, and it remains virtually unchanged. This coatee was made by Samuel Vanderslice, who is the post tailor. And it's going to have 42 brass buttons that's all going to be marked with the VMI Cadet. This is an early picture. If you're wondering what Stonewall Jackson would have looked like when he was here at VMI, it's a much different image than most people see Stonewall Jackson as by his death in 1863. This is General Jackson when he would have been here at the Virginia Military Institute. Now, He's going to come to VMI as a natural philosophy or physics professor and artillery tactical professor in the fall of 1851, as we had discussed earlier. Over the next 10 years, Jackson will become a competent, if not inspiring, teacher. Now, at the outbreak of the American Civil War, he's going to be ordered to active field command with the Confederate Army, and by the end of 1861, he will be known around the world from the Battle of Manassas as Stonewall. But this is a very, different look at Jackson than what you may be used to seeing. Beside Jackson's portrait is his chalkboard. And this is going to come from his classroom that was located in the VMI barracks. And visible on the board are punch names cadets, initials of cadets, and the names of cities and abbreviations of states. Now, I don't know for sure if this was done during the Civil War, after. I'm really not for sure, but that's what you're seeing there. And this was indeed Jackson's chalkboard here at VMI. Now, the cadet field uniform during the American Civil War, the one that you saw at the Battle of Newmarket here, as the cadets would wear there on the field of lost shoes on the fields of Newmarket, is this one. This is the 1861-1865 VMI cadet uniform. It was assembled to illustrate the typical VMI uniform of the Civil War era. So this is assembled to give you a perspective of what it will look like. Now, the shell jacket that you see here was worn by Francis L. Smith in 1867, and he would be wounded, he was wounded at the Battle of Newmarket with the 40-plus cadets that would be wounded there. And he would have white linen trousers as well on this uniform. These trousers itself was worn by John Dotson, VMI class of 1863, as a summer uniform. The jacket was worn by Francis L. Smith. He was class of 1867. He didn't wear this jacket in 1867. But this guy, Dotson, was class of 1863, and it was worn by him as a summer uniform. Now, the sash was worn by cadet officers as an indicator of rank, and this Virginia State seal is on the buckle here. It is a tongue and wreath buckle, and the belt itself was worn by Alexander Bruce, who was a VMI class of 1854. So this whole uniform is assembled from various other uniforms of different individuals, and you could come see pieces of history right here. And then this whole uniform is what it would look like in 1861 to 1865. Pretty cool memorial to three different men here on this uniform. So one of my favorite rifles is the 1854 Australian Lorenz rifle and bayonet, and this is one here. Now, this is the type of rifle that was carried by the VMI cadets at the Battle of Newmarket on the 15th of May of 1864. And this would become the third most common rifle of the American Civil War. The Union would purchase 226,924 Lorenz rifles, and the Confederacy would import as many as 100,000. So both sides had a pretty substantial amount of Lorenz rifles during the war. And this is the type of rifle that would have been carried at Newmarket. Now, right below it is the U.S. Springfield 1863 trapdoor cadet musket. And this was a 45 caliber breech loading rifle, and was designed for use actually by West Point cadets. And this was the VMI weapon carrier from 1877 to 1907. The uniform back that you're looking at is the uniform of Charles J. Anderson, class of 1869, and he's going to serve with A Company in the Battle of Newmarket on the 15th of May of 1864, and he will later become the Adjutant General of Virginia and member of the Virginia Senate, and he will serve on the VMI Board of Visitors. Also in this case is going to be several items from John, I'm just going to butcher his name, let's just say Professor John M. Brooke, because his middle name, I will butcher it. He's going to serve a distinguished career as an oceanographer and a scientist. It was in the 1850s while Brooke worked with a fellow naval officer who was Matthew Fontaine Maury at the Naval Observatory in Washington, D.C., that he's going to perfect his deep sea sounding device. And this deep sea sounding device is going to be simple. It's going to prove yet an effective apparatus that's going to say the ocean floor is not flat. Now, Brooke is going to work closely with Maury to determine the route for the first transoceanic telegraph cable that would connect America with England. So pretty cool. You could see one of those sounding devices right here. Now again, I'm not showing you everything in this museum because I want you guys to have something to come see for yourself. And if I show you the entire museum, well, you may not come see it for yourself, but if you can't come see this museum for yourself, well, you could kind of take that visit through me, hopefully, here. But a lot of cool things here that you could come see. And I want to leave something for you guys to see. So we're not going to see everything here, but you're seeing the vast majority of it here. As we walk through, continuing on here, you can see the tradition of VMI from the Spanish-American War, World War I, World War II, Vietnam, Korea, the Gulf War, and other conflicts throughout history into modern times with Afghanistan, Iraq, and even today with everything going on. The VMI Corps of Cadets are still serving the United States military, the United States Army, and they're going on to bigger and better things. And it's not just the United States Army that a lot of these people are going on to. It may be the Navy. It may be other branches. But they are continuing to make a difference in the world that we live in, serving this country. And you guys really need to come here to the VMI Museum to, well, first of all, learn about the school. Not just Civil War history, but the overall history of this school. You're going to have several notable commanders coming out here. You're going to have people's names etched like General Patton. And I mean, this is really cool to come and see finally for myself. Now, if you want to get a kind of glimpse of how VMI cadets live, well, this is an example of one of the barracks here. You know, a little place to study, your rack, and then, well, all your belongings will go right here. And this is what these men and women, well, this is their everyday routine. So, pretty neat. But you can see everything is structured, man. Everything is structured. It's a pretty cool place. So we're going to cut out of here and we're going to head to the next location here in Lexington, Virginia, Stonewall Jackson's grave. But the cadets here at VMI, they are the ones who made VMI. The cadets here, once you're a cadet, a brother rat here at VMI, you are for the rest of your life. The cadets here at VMI, they're for the citizen soldier. And well, this place has produced more Medal of Honor Award recipients than West Point. So you could come here, you could check it out for yourself, and check out the stories of VMI and the cadets here that served, and also honor the cadets who fell at the Battle of Newmarket and the cool mural that's up top here. But yeah, this is a tradition, and it's a lifelong tradition. Once a cadet or a brother rat, you're always a VMI cadet or brother rat. So before we get out of here, I wanted to stop and pay my respects right here to the memorial to the men, the cadets, the brother rats who gave their lives at the Battle of Newmarket, and a memorial to the brother rats who served at Newmarket right here on campus of VMI. And all of the cadets' names are etched right here. Here's Company A, Company B, Company D, and the field and staff, non-commissioned staff and musicians, and also Company C. Now, there were a number of Newmarket cadets who would be wounded in the battle, but 10 of these cadets, brotherettes, would be killed. They are W.H. Cabell, A.C. Hartsfield, S.F. Atwill, H.J. Jones, W.H. McDowell, C.G. Crockett, J.B. Stannard, J.C. Wheelwright, T.G. Jefferson, and L.C. Haynes. Now, they're also going to be memorialized here. And every year in May, the cadets will also remember these men. And here is their memorial. Now, not all of these cadets are buried here. Some were returned to their homes to be buried. But there are some of these cadets here, including Cadet Thomas G. Jefferson, who you may know from, well, his relation to Thomas Jefferson. Really cool to be standing here in this spot. I've wanted to see this spot for a very long time, and pay my respects to those soldiers, which I just did off camera for a moment. And you know, the cadets of VMI, once you're a brother rat, you're a brother rat forever. And the cadets are what make VMI VMI. And it's not the commanders, it's not anything but the cadets and the tradition. And they are a role to the citizen soldier, and that's what they stand for. And it's pretty cool to be here at VMI, standing here in a place I've wanted to stand, you know, pretty much my entire life. So I'm grateful for the opportunity, and grateful to VMI for actually giving me permission to come and actually film some of the museum here. Yeah, this is totally made my trip here. So anyway, we're going to get out of here. We are going to continue on to the next place, and it's a good one. So stay tuned. So, some of the other things I didn't mention about VMI were that during the Civil War, a lot of the buildings there were burned as the Yankees or Union made their way into here. And then George Washington, or Washington Lee University, well, they didn't really mess with the building there because of the statue of Washington on the top. So because Washington's statue was there, they kind of left it on, ransacked the inside, but didn't burn the building. Made up some s'mores, maybe in the front yard there. But yeah, it's a pretty neat place to see here in Lexington, Virginia. You've got to come visit it, preferably when it's not as hot as it is today. I thought it was out the heat. Well, guess so. All right, so we are still in Lexington, and we're standing right here outside of General Jackson's home. So this is a really cool place to see. I want to see this forever, but unfortunately, well, I can't video inside. So this is the Jackson house here in Lexington. This was the home of him and his second wife, Mary Anna Morrison. And they bought this house in 1858, and it was built around 1801. And this is a typical middle class dwelling and it was the only house that Jackson ever owned in his life. Enslaved African Americans Amy, Hetty, George, Cyrus, and Emma worked and lived on the property right here in the basement portion where you see right behind this stonework. Now, Jackson would leave Lexington in April of 1861 to fight for the Confederacy. Of course, he'll be later known as Stonewall Jackson after Manassas, and he would become a lieutenant general. Mary Anna Jackson will move to North Carolina but own his house until 1906. So after his death, she would go to North Carolina. She'll keep this home until 1906, and then the house would be opened as a community hospital in 1907, and then ultimately became a museum in 1954. And it's registered on the National Historic Places list, or National Register of Historic Places, rather. But once upon a time in the history of this home, that was the front door there. The street level was cut down a bit, as you can see. This originally was the basement. Pretty crazy to think about. But yeah, where this stonework is, that was once the street level, and this was the front door to the home. So Jackson was loved, but while he was at VMI, he was very strict. He wasn't the best professor, but he was a very good professor. He was always learning. Jackson loved learning, loved studying, and he will ultimately become, a very strict instructor. He was very demanding of punctuality. If you made a meeting, for instance, with Jackson, you can assure yourself he will be on time, and you should be as well. And that was a very big belief to Jackson, is that, well, if you're going to succeed, you got to be on time and be punctual. Pretty neat lesson to take away from Jackson. I just don't know about him taking cold baths. I mean, I couldn't take a cold bath, could you? All right, so pretty cool place. You've got to come check it out here in Lexington. And again, VMI does an awesome job supporting sites like that. Yeah, it's really cool to be able to visit there for myself. But with that being said, well, I'm going to get out of here, and we're going to head over and see something very neat now. And well, I hope you tag along for the ride. So here we are. We have made it to the grave of General Stonewall Jackson right here at the cemetery in Lexington, known as Oak Grove Cemetery. So if you're in Lexington, it's Oak Grove Cemetery where you need to come to pay your respects to that man right there, General Thomas Jonathan Jackson, Stonewall Jackson. People will call him General Jackson, Thomas, but they really wouldn't call him Jonathan. And he will die in 1863, May the 10th, 1863, after the wound that he will suffer accidentally at the hands of his own men. And, well, this is where he would be escorted to by the VMI cadets and laid to rest. And his wife, also buried right here. He's got an infant daughter. Yeah, it's yeah, it's super cool to be here. So to close out this episode, I'm going to leave you with this monument. And when life gives you lemons, well, you make lemonade. Jackson loved lemonade, so yeah. That saying always reminds me of General Jackson, my favorite general of the American Civil War. Pretty surreal to be standing right here.
I'm aware of the bonds that were created today. When you told me that sure there's a way. The water's so still and my pain has gone away. The air is much cleaner after it rains. Follow my love streets in spring air. Follow the moon into the sun. There's a call for new beginnings here. Let the sorrow of yester disappear. Let your body